Paul, thank you very much for joining me on my show. This is Between Two Barrels, episode 7, and it is always a great pleasure to have a friend on the show, and thank you for supporting me, as usually.
Thank you for inviting me, Nicolò. It's awesome to be here.
And we are also having, while we have a chat about your business and your wine brand, we're having 7 Flags, which is extremely appropriate, considering it's episode 7.
I thought so too.
And also very appropriate that we're having the flagship range, obviously.
Yes,
to sip on.
Only the best for you, Nicolò.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And we also have a what is this called? A sand clock?
Sand
watch. What is sand clock?
Sand.
This will obviously determine the time. We can chat, and so no pressure. I want to start talking about Elgin or Elgin. First of all, please clarify: is it Elgin or Elgin?
My answer to that is always tomatoes, potatoes, potatoes. It's named after Elgin in Scotland, and the Scotch would say it's Elgin.
Okay.
But
all right. Let's talk wine. So Elgin or Elgin is tremendously cool in many ways, and you have contributed with your brand, or have been one of the main players to make it tremendously cool in the wine industry locally and worldwide. So first of all, for our viewers, why is it so cool in every aspect? And then I have another question: how can you make it cool abroad? And what are your techniques to do that and to convey that message of coolness?
Yeah. So what makes Elgin cool from a temperature point of view is, and it's important to know, the most critical thing, Elgin is not the coolest region when it comes to winter temperature. It is the coolest region when it comes to summer temperature, growing temperature. And what makes it cool is proximity to the ocean, the fact that it's completely surrounded by 3 mountain ranges, and it's on an elevated plateau. So the average vineyard height in Elgin is about 350 meters above sea level, yet very, very close to the ocean. And then what we get is, if you stand in Cape Town and you look towards the Hottentots Holland Mountains, and the southeaster is blowing in the summertime, you always see those mountains completely covered in a cloud.
And you're in the midst of the clouds.
And we're in the midst of the clouds. So actually, when it comes to summer, the summer growing season, is that we have the most cloud cover of any wine growing region in South Africa. That contributes to the cooling factor. And at certain times in our growing season, the temperature difference between us and Stellenbosch will be up to 10 degrees Celsius.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And maybe to explain to our viewers what it does to the grapes, and then as a consequence to the wine, is obviously it develops flavors in a more complex way.
So obviously the cooler temperature contributes to a longer hang time, longer ripening season. It's like eating English strawberries that are very flavorful and sweet, and not just sweet without flavor. But it also depends on the specific variety. So certain varieties, when it's too cool, won't do well. So it's finding that perfect match of variety and environment. But you also asked, how do we convey that message in an international environment? And I just came back from Canada, where it
was very cool.
I attended the International Cool Climate Chardonnay Festival, and it was 40 degrees Celsius with high humidity like Durban, and it was amazing because people would come up to me and say, "Well, you must be used to this heat. You're from Africa." And the immediate perception from people overseas are that because we're in Africa, you must be exceptionally hot. There's nothing cool about. I mean, but you live in Cape Town. You're very close to the ocean. It's seldom, especially in Greenpoint, it seldom gets exceptionally hot here because we have this cooling effect from the Atlantic Ocean, and that gives us the ability in the Western Cape to grow fantastic vines. Because of the ocean, because of this cold Benguela Cove coming up from the Antarctic and cooling us. So we're not this hot area, and we especially not, if you look at Europe, they've just experienced this incredible heat waves.
They are. More and more. I mean, year after year.
Exactly.
It's an interesting aspect. I've always said that to successfully market the wine country, you need to market the country first of all, and South African tourism really needs to play a role there to market internationally how varied our landscapes are, and our mountains, and our cool climates, and our dry areas, and absolutely. So,
but you're right. So on this trip, I was in New York, and what's amazing is that I did a wine tasting, and so many people came to the wine tasting because they said, we are coming to South Africa on a holiday. And I think wine and tourism go hand in hand together. Why is South Africa so successful in England, Germany, Holland?
Yeah.
Traditional tourists come from those countries.
They want to relive that experience.
The fact that we have more and more Americans visiting us, they realize that actually the Cape is a fantastic place to visit. We produce incredible wines, we've got incredible cuisine, and we fun people. South Africans are amazing people.
And very hospitable. And so that's maybe the key. So while making a big effort to try and draw the picture overseas of how our country looks like, we need to bring people here, and they can go and speak about it then.
Sure.
So you spoke about varietals, and obviously you chose, because of your cool climate, you chose the king and queen of Burgundy, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and especially that climate where you are growing it allows you obviously to do a very fresh Chardonnay, a beautiful, elegant Chardonnay, because you mentioned earlier to me Chardonnay can express itself in very different ways. It can be big and buttery, but this is completely different. So tell me a little bit about these two wines we are drinking here.
Sure. So I mean, and you're absolutely right. I think there are certain areas in Chardonnay where it's you get more alcohol, more ripeness. Our style, and I think our region, lends itself to producing wines of elegance, balance, and fantastic acidity. So what you get on the Chardonnay is a very elegant wine, beautiful fruit flavors, and just that long lingering aftertaste on the palate. When it comes to Pinot, and I think it's important to say, Pinot Noir is this delicate wine. It's not like a Cabernet or a Shiraz that's big and bold and can it wants to make a statement. Pinot Noir is about that elegance, and hence I believe it needs that cool climate. As a grape, it's very finicky.
Yeah, difficult one.
Doesn't want extreme weather temperatures. If it's too hot, actually you will end up getting raisins. So
and this affects very much by bacteria and diseases, right?
Exactly. So once again, if you consider Pinot Noir is only made as red wine in very particular areas in the world, even in South Africa. So if you look at the most Pinot Noir is not grown in Burgundy, it's grown in Champagne, but it's picked very early.
And used for sparkling wine.
And made as a white wine.
Correct.
Also, right? It's not different in South Africa. The most Pinot Noir in South Africa is not grown in Elgin or the Hummel and Arder Valley. Mm-hmm. It's grown in Robertson and Stellenbosch and Paarl, but turned into sparkling wine.
That's so interesting.
It's only in particular pockets where it really excels. In South Africa, I believe those areas is predominantly Elgin and Hummel and Arder. There are little exclusions. I think Meerlust with its proximity to the ocean, Chamonix with its height in the Franschhoek Mountains still produce fantastic Pinot Noirs. But overall, I think it does predominantly well in the cooler climate areas.
And that's your identity in Elgin. And I think that's an interesting, because we can go a little bit back in the past. You have contributed to create that Elgin identity tied to these type of varietals. I mean, I understand that part of your path to success was also a path of focus. You started at a very young age, taking over the wine business. You took on board very famous international consultants to guide you in a direction, because when your father was doing wine, I understand there was way more wines in the range. There were very different varietals, and then you slowly found a focus.
I mean, when I joined, I was one of the guys that said, well, we should plant Shiraz, we should plant Cabernet Franc because if we don't plant it, how do we know it won't do well in Elgin, right? and specifically for us, we planted all these Bordeaux varietals, the Rhone varietals, and we were lucky enough to have Paul Pontelle from Chateau Margaux come out to the winery, and I said to him, I said, Paul, help us put together the perfect Bordeaux blend. And after tasting all the Bordeaux varietals, he turned around to me and said, so why do you want to focus on Bordeaux varietals if the best red wine in your cellar is Pinot Noir? And at the time, it was an incredibly hard decision to make. You can imagine 15 years ago in South Africa, who drank Pinot Noir? Who knew Pinot Noir? Even in America, this was before the movie Sideways came out and the whole, fashion of Pinot Noir was there. So it was a tough decision, but I think what's important is that you should focus on your strengths, and once you can focus on your strengths, it boils down to honing it, and it's about repetition and learning. And making those sequential advances of just getting better and better.
But it takes time. I mean, if you compare it to Burgundy now,
yes.
I mean, you have hundreds of years of generation after generation where techniques and where know-how about the land and about the terroir get just handed over. I mean, you've taken over a very young wine business. So it takes, I mean, as far as I understand, it takes centuries to understand the site, to actually achieve perfection.
It does. I mean, thank goodness we've got science on our side.
Right.
So I think the rate of learning is much faster than what it was 300 years ago.
Yeah.
So yes, it took Burgundy 300 years to get where it is today. Will it take us 300 years to get to that level? I don't think so. Yeah. I think with our understanding of soil science, with our ability to satellite map temperature zones, has accelerated that learning curve.
And also to get the right planting material, because I understand that's not been. I mean, South Africa has started importing proper quality clones.
Sure.
Not so long ago. So now we're actually looking into the future,
yes.
and the present, obviously, with these incredible wines.
Yeah.
We can guarantee a bit more continuity and build that legacy finally, because we have that quality on our side. We have the technology. We have the right people that have the experience. We have the right planting material, and we have, I believe, the most varied, most complex growing region in a small space, different ancient soils.
Sure.
Two oceans.
I think so
many.
Try
this in the meantime.
Please. So many of the incredibly highly regarded wine journalists in the world have seen how exciting the wine growing regions of South Africa are, and I think. Ranging from the Swartland to Stellenbosch to Paul to Robertson to Hemel and Ardagh, there is a uniqueness of every single region, and I think every single region they're slowly discovering their own strengths, and that's only going to benefit South Africa going forward.